What would you do if the one person you trusted most left you to face a challenge you weren't sure you could handle? For me, that moment came on a crisp autumn morning when my sister, Claire, pulled into my driveway, her car engine humming like a warning I couldn't hear. I'm Lila, 28, and every day, from midnight to noon, I'm completely deaf. It's not a metaphor or a quirk, it's my reality, a rare condition that leaves me navigating half my life in silence. Claire knew this. She'd known it since we were kids, when doctors first explained my circadian hearing loss. Yet, that morning, she dropped off her 5-year-old daughter, Sophie, with a hurried kiss and a promise to be back soon. No explanation, no warning, just a backpack of snacks and toys and the weight of her trust or her negligence on my shoulders. The sun was barely up, painting my small house in shades of gold and shadow. I stood at the door, watching Claire's car disappear, Sophie's tiny hand clutching mine. My hearing wouldn't kick in for another 4 hours, and the world was a silent film, gestures, expressions, and guesswork. Sophie, with her wide brown eyes and tangled curls, looked up at me, her lips moving. I knelt down, signing, "What did you say?" She giggled, mimicking my signs clumsily, then pointed to her stomach. "Hungry." "Okay, I could handle that." I led her to the kitchen, my heart pounding. I'd babysat Sophie before, but always with Claire nearby, always when my hearing was intact. This felt like a test I hadn't studied for. I made peanut butter toast, cutting it into triangles the way Sophie liked. She munched happily, swinging her legs under the table, her sneakers tapping a rhythm I couldn't hear. I kept my eyes on her, hyper-aware of every movement. What if she choked? What if she cried and I couldn't understand why? My phone buzzed Claire's text, "Emergency at work. Back by lunch. You got this." I stared at the words, a mix of anger and fear bubbling up. She knew my condition. She knew I'd been up all night, unable to sleep, worrying about a job interview that afternoon. Yet here I was, responsible for her child in a world of silence. The morning crawled by. I set Sophie up with crayons and paper, watching her draw lopsided houses and smiling suns. I signed stories to her, ones I'd made up about brave foxes and curious rabbits, and she clapped, delighted. But my anxiety gnawed at me. What if something went wrong? What if I missed something crucial because I couldn't hear? I kept checking the clock, willing noon to come faster. At 10:30, Sophie tugged my sleeve, her face scrunched in distress. She pointed to her ear, then shook her head. "Earache?" I grabbed my phone, typing, "Does your ear hurt?" She nodded, tears welling up. Panic surged. I couldn't call a doctor, not yet, not without hearing. I signed for her to lie down, grabbing a warm cloth and some children's pain reliever from the cabinet, hoping I'd guessed right. That's when the twist came. The doorbell flashed me visual alert system for visitors. I opened the door to find Mrs. Delgado, my elderly neighbor, holding a plate of cookies. She wasn't just dropping by, she'd seen Claire's car earlier and noticed something off. Her own daughter had been deaf, she signed fluently, her hands moving with a warmth that steadied me. "I thought you might need a hand," she said, her lips easy to read. Relief washed over me. She sat with Sophie, signing gently, checking her ear with a practiced eye. "Just a little irritation," she assured me, showing me how to soothe it with a warm compress. Sophie relaxed, even giggling at Mrs. Delgado's exaggerated faces. But the relief was short-lived. Noon came, and my hearing flickered on, like a radio tuning in after static. The world filled with sound, Sophie's soft humming, the tick of the clock, the distant hum of traffic. I called Claire, expecting her to be on her way. "I'm stuck at the hospital," she said, her voice tight. "Mom had a fall. I didn't want to worry you earlier." My anger dissolved, replaced by a knot of guilt. Our mother? Why hadn't she told me? I pressed for details, but Claire was vague, promising to explain later. "Can you keep Sophie a bit longer?" she asked. I glanced at Sophie, now coloring with Mrs. Delgado, and nodded, though my chest tightened. My interview was in 2 hours. I couldn't miss it, not when I'd spent months proving I was more than my disability. Mrs. Delgado offered to stay, but I couldn't ask that of her. I thanked her, promising cookies in return, and she left with a wink. Sophie and I muddled through lunch, mac and cheese, her favorite. I practiced my interview pitch in my head, signing answers to imaginary questions while Sophie napped. But my mind kept drifting to Mom. Was she okay? Why had Claire kept it from me? The weight of being the reliable sister, the one who always managed, felt heavier than ever. At 1:30, I bundled Sophie into her coat, grabbed my interview notes, and headed to the community center where the interview was set. I'd arranged for a friend, Emma, to watch Sophie in the lobby. Emma, a sign language interpreter, was a godsend, chatting with Sophie in signs and keeping her busy with a puzzle. The interview went better than I'd hoped. The hiring manager was impressed by my portfolio, my determination. But halfway through, my phone lit up with texts from Claire, "Mom's stable. Minor fracture. I'm so sorry, Lila." I exhaled, focusing on the moment. I'd deal with family later. When I stepped out, Sophie ran to me, hugging my legs. Emma signed, "She's been asking for you." My heart swelled. I'd been so scared of failing her, but maybe I'd done enough. Claire arrived soon after, her face pale, eyes red. She hugged me tightly, whispering, "I didn't know what else to do this morning. I knew you'd handle it." I wanted to be angry, to tell her she'd crossed a line, but I saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the same weight I carried. Instead, I signed, "Tell me next time. I'm stronger than you think." That evening, I visited Mom in the hospital. She was bruised but smiling, joking about her clumsy old bones. Sophie curled up beside her, showing off her drawings. Claire and I sat in silence for a while, the air heavy with unspoken words. Finally, she said, "I forget sometimes how much you carry, Lila. I shouldn't have assumed." I nodded, feeling the rift between us start to mend. My condition shaped my life, but it didn't define it, not in the ways that mattered. Looking back, that day wasn't just about surviving silence or stepping up when I felt unprepared. It was about trust, Claire's in me, mine in myself, and the unexpected kindness of a neighbor who saw what I needed. It was about family, flawed and messy, but bound by love that didn't need words. Sophie, now asleep in my lap, had taught me something too. Sometimes, the smallest hands hold you steady when the world feels too loud or too quiet.